that, alright, so I would say, I do record class. If you can't make it, you're welcome to listen to the audio of the class. Whatever we show up here will show up on the screencast on your Blackboard tab. So we're going to be going over the ICC Residential Code. That's the blue book. People say, what year? Fine with me if you buy 09, 012, the latest one is 15. We're going to go in the 15. When we have a discrepancy, when somebody's got 09 or 12 or something, we're going to slow down, we're going to flag it so we know there's a change. And you know that if you're on an exam, some kind of important review, you can know that there's a problem there and you may want to hedge your bet on what they're looking for. Okay? So we'll go as long as we can. This class is scheduled from 9 to 1:30. What we'll probably do is push it and not take a lunch as opposed to taking a lunch and coming back for an hour. Probably be better to go ahead with several breaks, push it, and then I'll give y'all some kind of assignment, reading that y'all can work on and not come back after lunch, okay? All right, so there's a sheet. If you haven't been here before, please print your name, sign your name, give me your best phone number in case I have to cancel class. Now, for those of you who don't have your textbooks with you today, what I recommend is that you write down the code number. And that way, when you get your book, assuming you're going to buy a book, you can go to that code and you can highlight it and maybe tab the page. Now, these codes, especially the residential code, is made for basically residential homes. They added it about to the ACR, the Alabama board, added it, I guess, 5 or 6 years ago. Before that, we just did the mechanical gas code and the fuel gas code, which are basically for non-residential. So they finally wised up and added this. So the problem with that is the residential code is a code of everything for homes, whereas mechanical code is for commercial buildings, but it's just the mechanical part. If the fuel gas code book is the fuel gas code just for commercial, and there's 5 or 6 other books just for commercial. All of that is put into the residential. This residential book covers everything under the residential, okay? And so it's got a lot more. So a lot of this book has nothing to do with us. It's for people who might be framers, who might be foundation people, who roofers, painters, all this kind of stuff. It's in there. We don't care anything about that. So I'm here to guide you to what's important to us. Now, the state of Alabama Heating and Air Conditioning Board says that they're going to go along with everything in the ICC except for with their exceptions. And so if we have time, we will go to their laws and bylaws and look at it. There are several of these codes that they say, not in Alabama. Okay? But just about everything else, with the exception of 2 or 3 codes, they stick to. Alright? Is there any questions before I get started? Yes, ma'am.
The contract you can only take, it'll just be for air conditioning, right?
That's right. Now there is one for commercial refrigeration if you want to take it, but it's a different exam.
I'm just wondering with this big book, are we going to have like questions that don't relate to air conditioning on that?
Rarely. Sometimes they may put something in there that doesn't seem like our area. But you got to remember, as an air conditioning, an HVAC professional, we have to do all the ventilation stuff, fart fans, dryer vents, and most of the time we're doing a lot of the gas fitting. And so they're going to squeeze that into us. But, theoretically, and we'll look at some of the stuff like for framing. Why is this me? But because in the real world, we're out there, we're the ones cutting holes in because the disclaimer is long gone. Okay? All right. And so is that on the board there? So this, I know it's not that easy to see. This code is available free online. I put the link in Blackboard. Now, if you've got a laptop, one of those iPods, or you've got a good phone, I couldn't read that off the phone, but some of you younger folks could. You can go to this if you want. And I don't mind if you take your test in here. It's an open book test. I don't care if it's an open computer test. But now, if you go to take your review exam, they won't allow a computer in there. You're gonna need a hard book. But you may not be planning on taking that, or you may not be planning on taking it soon. And so this it's about $300 worth of books.
Is the review exam, is that contract?
Yes, the contract. They're gonna want you to have some kind of book there, or have it memorized.
Right.
Okay, so we're going to start. This is 2015. If you have a change, I want to look at code 101.2. Now, these codes always start with the chapter. So 1 signifies it's going to be in chapter 1. So 101.2. Give you all set. All right, so let me just read this. The provisions of the International Residential Code for 1 and 2 family dwellings shall apply to the construction, alteration, movement, enlargement, replacement, repair, equipment, use and occupancy, location, removal, demolition of detached 1 and 2 family dwellings and townhouses that are not more than 3 stories above grade plane in height, with a separate means of egress, and their accessory structures not more than 3 stories above grade plane in height. So, there we define what this code works for. Most residences, some townhouses, even a few condos fall under this category. Everything else, we will see the exact opposite of this. We get to the mechanical and the gas code. It'll say, that's what we cover. We don't cover these. Okay? Come on, Ms. Nichols. All right, my next code, 105.1. All right. Permits. This is 105.1 required. I'll go too fast, y'all let me know. Any owner or owners, authorized agent who intends to construct, enlarge, alter, repair, move, demolish, or change the occupancy of a building or structure, or to erect, install, enlarge, alter, repair, remove, convert, or replace any electrical, gas, mechanical, or plumbing system, the installation of which is regulated by this code, or to cause any such work to be performed, shall first make an application to the building official and obtain a required permit. Okay?
What all does that mean? Like anytime we go to a house at all for a service call, or like an installation?
Luckily, hopefully not. Now, we do have a few changes because of the new duct rule, air tightness rule. You go in and change out a unit. Typically, depending on the city, municipality, you may not have to have a permit. In others, you do. But if you change the ductwork in any way, they're going to call in that you have to, okay? You're going to have to meet that test. But it really depends on the municipality. Some municipalities, like I'm down in Montevallo, we can't afford an inspector, so we use Shelby County. And so it's not like they're swarming around our city. But others are pretty bad about it. So let's look at the next one. This is a little more clarifying. 105.2. Is this still bearing up with your numbers? Okay, thank you. The exemption from permit requirements of this code shall not be deemed to grant authorization for any work to be done in any manner in violation of the provision of this code or any other laws or ordinance of this jurisdiction. Permits will not be required for the following. Let's look at these. Under building, I don't plan on doing any of that work. Electrical. Some of you may be electricians. I can put up Christmas lights. Don't need a permit. Changing plugs, that. So anyway, you can see. Gas. Let's look at mechanical, though. That's a little bit more in ours. Portable heating appliances. Don't need them. Portable ventilation appliances. We typically call them fans. Don't need them. Portable cooling units. Okay. Evaporative coolers. Portable. So, anyway, my next code, let's look at 106.1.2.
When it says portable, does it mean like?
You can bring it over in the van and put it up and take it back with you. You move it around the house. It's not installed permanent.
So not the air handler?
Yes, that they're thinking that might need a permit. A denture?
Exemption. He said you don't need permits for exemption.
That's right. That stuff is exempt. We don't need a permit for painting, that kind of stuff. Look, it's all about money. They want the money. Don't kid yourself.
What was that, 106 what?
106.1.2. Manufacturer's installation instructions. 106.1.2. Okay. Manufacturer's installation instructions, as required by this code, shall be available on the job site at the time of inspection. So, when you purchase your air handler and you purchase your condenser, that's mainly what we're doing here. It's going to come with a warranty. It's going to come with the manufacturer's installation, manufacturer's instructions. You don't take it with you. Now, I wouldn't leave it around during the rough end. Because, things get thrown away, torn up. But by the time you get to the final of the project, you need to find a place. A lot of people would put them on the new houses. In the kitchen, you're going to have some kind of cabinets in there. You can put them in there. I always like to make me a sleeve, like a big manila envelope that I would put with the furnace or something to put them in there. But you can't do that if it's under the house or in the attic. The homeowner's not going to crawl around looking for them. But it's your job to make sure they're there and they stay there, especially at the inspection time. So that was what, 106.2?
Before you move any further, Clay, I got a question.
Yes.
Right there beside that 106 number and the one below it, there's an Astra, and then right below it, there's two.
All right, give it to me now. So what is the code number?
106.1.2.
All right, so that's one I just read.
The one that you just read, see, there's an Astra right there beside it.
Okay,
Does that mean anything or not?
let's go look. Usually the code instructions I think are given right at the beginning. Let's see. When you say an asterisk, you mean like a 4-dotted diamond?
Yeah, it says it right here. A single asterisk placed in the margin indicates that the text or a table has been relocated within the code. A double asterisk placed in the margin indicates that the text or table immediately following it has been relocated there from elsewhere in the code.
All right, so I got 12 here. So bear with me. In 15, we've got some kind of code that now I don't have the asterisks here, but anyway. So we were in 106.12. All right, so let me see what this thing says on the asterisk. Do y'all still have information on construction documents? Okay. The emphasis, okay, that's for the section above it, information on construction documents. Let's just read that, okay, for a second. Boy, that was long. On 106.11, information, construction documents shall be drawn upon suitable material. Electronic media documents are permitted to be submitted where approved by the building official. Construction documents shall be sufficient clarity to indicate the location, nature, and the extent of the work proposed, and show in detail that it will conform to the revision of this code and relevant laws, ordinances, rules, regulations, as determined by the building official. All right, so this goes on. This is the change, but it's not relevant to us, I don't think. That continued. It said, where required by the building official, all braced wall lines shall be identified on the construction documents, and all pertinent information, including but not limited to bracing methods, locations, and lengths of braced walls, panels, foundations, panels at top and bottom shall be provided. So that there was a change here, but it wasn't relevant to HVAC, I wouldn't say. Now, on this code, it says, and bear in mind, I'm reading from a commentary book. In other words, it's a little different. It's got commentary. Throughout the code, it directs the material or equipment to be installed in accordance with the manufacturer's installation instructions. As an example is the installation of modified bitumen roofing. Anybody heard of that? Bitumen? It's not in your book. As set forth in section R905.11.3, the code recognizes that the manufacturer can best relate the specific installation requirements applicable to this specific product. So, it really doesn't bear on us, okay? Where are we at? 106.212. Let's go to 109.12. 109.
109 what?
109.1.2.
Plumbing, mechanical.
Yeah. All right, so section 9 is on inspections. And we have 2 inspections on new installations. You have the rough end and you have the finish, okay? That's what we're relating to here. 109.12, plumbing, mechanical, gas, and electrical system inspection. Rough inspection of plumbing, mechanical, gas, and electrical systems shall be made prior to covering or concealment before fixtures or appliances are set or installed and prior to the framing inspection. Exception, backfilling of the ground source heat pump loop system tested in accordance with section M2105.28 shall be permitted. So let's hang on for a minute there. So when you do a rough end inspection, see, Kerry came in, Jalen did, Robert came in, somewhere here. Gary came in. Did Corey Terry come in? No. Austin Trammell? No. Birchfield? Donald Crawford. Okay. So
On these 15 books, Clay, that exception number is different. Where yours is M2105.28, mine is M2105.1.
And that's 15.
Yes.
And this is 15. This is probably a newer version of 15, believe it or
That's what I
not.
got. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Which one are we gonna be required to, know when we take the test?
Well, that's a $1 million question. They'll state that any year of the code book is acceptable to bring in. And 15 is the newest. They make them every 3 years. How lazy they are as far as when they updated the questions, don't know. I mean, they could be working off of 06 for all I know. But if you miss a question based on you having a newer code, that's what I'm saying. Make a note. He's got 09. And I'm saying make a note if there's a change with ours, so that if you miss a question, I would take it to their attention. I wish there was a definitive answer there. But for now, for probably 4 or 5 years, they've been saying 09. Okay? And I don't think they're going to, at some point, go, get 012. They're going to skip to 15. Okay?
What were you saying last week about, writing the book with pen versus pencil?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to use these books in your exam, first of all, they say absolutely no pencil writing. You can annotate, which means make a note. Like in his book, maybe he may want to go 2015 change, 6 inches required, something like that. They're saying you're not supposed to write, a ton of information, and you're not supposed to write formulas. And the very worst thing is to write, that's what they're really looking for. Did you write a question down? You heard this was a test question, you wrote it down, and you answered it. If they see that, they're going to red flag it.
They flip through your book for the text.
Yes, they do. He took the test not long ago.
Yes.
They flipped through it.
Yeah, they don't go page to page. They go through. They'll take that book, just kind of flip through it, and they'll take them and shake them and make sure there's nothing in them.
You can highlight though, that kind of thing, but highlight doesn't do you very good unless you see where that highlight on the page is. So you can use tabs, but they say permanent tabs, which you said you looked last week for some permanent tabs. There's really not something marketed as permanent tabs.
Yeah, I couldn't find it.
What kind of tabs did you use tabs?
Yeah. I found permanent tabs at Walmart. They're small, very small. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen electrical code book. They come with their own tabs. It's like that. But
Little plastic tabs.
yeah, little plastic tabs. But they're real small, and it's hard to write on them, But I mean, that's all I could find. They want something to where they can grab that tab and pull it, and if it starts tearing the page, that's permanent tab.
Yeah, but they specifically mention the stickers. Where you write yourself a note, you put it on something so you see it. Those things can pull off and re-stick. That's definitely not what they want. They're afraid you're stealing their answers. You're tabbing your book where there was a question, All right, so anyway, I was going to say about this rough-in inspection. So this rough-in inspection, you're going to have to call it in. No one else can call it in for you. A lot of contractors try to do that, getting you in a hurry. Say, oh yeah, I called in your inspection. No, that's not going to work. And if you don't pass it, work's going to have to stop. So the next thing after you on a rough-in is they're going to try to insulate the house. So they can't do that until you're finished usually. Of course, once they do that, they're going to typically start sheetrocking. All right?
Is that just something in a brand new system in a brand new building?
That's for new construction, that's right. Because there's typically not a rough-in on a replacement. You're going to get a permit. They're probably not ever going to show up until you do a finish if it needs to be inspected. Which number were we on there? 109? Let's go to 109.16. Final inspection. Pretty simple there. Final inspection shall be made after the permitted work is completed and prior to occupancy. They're probably going to hold your check until you pass that final inspection. Okay, what's next? Okay, now chapter 2, I haven't highlighted anything, but chapter 2 is definitions. And so, if you have a question, or if I give you a question, if you go, wow, what does this mean? You may want to go look it up in chapter 2. That's our definitions. Okay? So, getting into the real meat is chapter 3. First thing I got is 301.22. Alright, I need to exit this. How do I do this? Back to top. Yeah, it's a
Table,
table, yes, table, I believe.
component and cladding loads for a building.
What did I say? 301.2 parentheses 2. It is a map of the United States.
Okay, well, that would be 301.2 parentheses 3 in my book.
Okay. And you know that might have changed in mine. Let's see. Things loading slow. All right, so it's drawing it. 301.2, parentheses 2, continued seismic design categories, class D. Is what?
Yeah, it's a table in my book. That table right there.
Yeah.
Well, it says continue.
Yeah, we want figure, not table. We want figure. Yeah, I've got table 301.2 parentheses 2, but I want figure 301.2 parentheses 2. Sorry.
Site class D.
Yes. And it's a drawing in here.
215 is on page 32.
All right. So, sorry we made such a big deal out of this. So, why does this matter? Seismic is about earthquakes, right? The more prone you are to an earthquake area, the more you're going to have to worry about your gas lines to your furnace. Does that make sense? All right. So, if we look at Alabama here, down here, you can see we have 3 categories, and I know the color's not very good, but we got category, A for South Alabama, we got B for, I guess, central to north, and then in the very corners, the east and the west corners, we have class C, okay? Everybody see that? If they give you a question on what class is Birmingham, that kind of thing. And I think this thing finishes up next with we might even have a table of counties. Or maybe we already have it, I don't know. What fun. All right, 302. What is 302.3? What's that? Let's see. Yeah, that's what I've got written down. No, I think it's just a code.
Two-family dwelling.
I just wrote the number down. I have to look.
2.1? Or what?
302.3
3.2.
is what that's what I wrote. Now, maybe I was drunk. 2.23, 24.
Yeah, on 52 and 15.
There it is right there. Two-family dwelling.
Now, I don't know. Somebody brought this to me from the exam. That's why I wrote this down. I don't know what the deal here is, y'all. I'll just read this. 302.3. Dwelling units and two-family dwellings shall be separated from each other by a wall and a floor assembly having not less than a 1-hour fire resistance rating or tested in accordance with ASTME E119 or UL 263. Fire resistance rated floor, ceiling, and wall assembly shall extend to and be tight against the exterior wall, and wall assembly shall extend from the foundation of the underside of the roof sheathing. Okay, I think, and they didn't say anything about the exceptions. I think this was about whenever we go through a fire rated wall, you have to use either a smoke damper or a fire damper depending on the rating. Okay, so I think we'll tie this later on. Okay,
You have to seal that penetration also.
this thing's going to have a meltable fuse that will shut a gate, a metal gate, if we're penetrating that wall. And I guess if you have doors, you have to have a fire rated door.
Penetration for your refrigerant lines or your ductwork through the wall has to be sealed again.
Okay, so I guess if they're trying to keep the fire from spreading from one place to the other, like apartments from the downstairs to the upstairs stuff. All right, 302.52. 302.52. What's there?
Duct penetration?
There we go. Duct penetration. Let's see. Duct in the garage and ducts penetrating the walls or ceilings separating the dwelling from the garage shall be constructed of a minimum 26 gauge sheet steel or other approved material and shall not have openings into the garage. Okay. 302.10.1 installation. Let's see. Insulation. Insulating materials, including facings such as vapor retarders and vapor permeable membranes installed within the floor ceiling assemblies, roof ceiling assemblies, wall assemblies, crawl spaces, and attics shall have a flame spread index not to exceed 25, with an accompanying smoke developing index not to exceed 450, were tested in accordance with the ASTME E84 or UL 723. Is there anything in the exceptions? Don't think anything jumped out at me. Okay. 303.1. Light, ventilation, and heating. .1. Habitable rooms. Habitable rooms shall have an aggregate glazing area, which I pretty much window area, but translucent, of not less than 8% of the floor area of such rooms. 8%. Natural ventilation shall be through windows, skylights, doors, louvers, or other approved openings to the outdoors air. Such openings shall be approved with ready access or shall otherwise be readily controlled by the building occupants. The openable area to the outdoors shall not be less than 4% of the floor area being ventilated. So, I guess the window manufacturers decided to lobby the building code. I I can understand if you have a fire, you might want to have a door. But, you know, a window ain't nothing but a big hole where money was. Because it's less insulation. Then you got to, nobody leave a window up there. They're going to dress it up, too. So you're going to spend $500 on dressing it up, too. So don't get me started.
How far off the ground are you?
Just jump. That's what knees are for. All right.
What's glaze area mean?
Well, now,
What's glaze area?
lay area,
Aggregated glazing area.
that's your window, pretty much.
Okay.
That covers probably fire safety or life safety.
It probably is, and I'm making light of it. No, I mean, we do need ventilation too, but not many people spend any money on their ventilation. They get by the code saying, oh no, I got a window right there, I can open it. And that's what the buildings do, as opposed to paying for ductwork to bring in ventilation. Let's look at, I think it's 3034. Maybe that's changed. We were on 3031.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, 303 first, pardon me. 303.3.
What now? 303 first?
303.3, pardon me. Bathrooms. Bathrooms, water closet compartments, and other similar rooms shall be provided with aggregate glazing area and windows of not less than 3 square feet, 1/2 of which must be open. Can you believe that? You have to have a window that opens in your bathrooms. And what's the minimum here? 3 square feet. I just think we're made of money. Let's look at the exception. The glazed area shall not be required where artificial light and local exhaust systems are provided. The minimum local exhaust rate shall be determined in accordance with section 15, chapter 15. We'll get there. Exhaust air from the space shall be exhausted directly to the outdoors. Good luck. People put bathrooms in the middle of a house. You're going to have to, it's tough running a 4-inch line all the way to the outdoors. Used to, we just get it in the soffit or put it in the eaves, but not anymore. So, and I like that artificial light, don't you? Artificial light. All right, 3034, mechanical ventilation. You notice they don't invite me to help write codes. Where the air infiltration rate of a dwelling unit is 5 air changes per hour or less, where tested with a blower door at a pressure of 0.2 inches water column in accordance with Chapter 11, the dwelling unit shall be approved with the whole house mechanical ventilation in accordance with Section Chapter 15. So this is the new leaking rate of your house getting tested by a blower door. Now let me explain this. 5 air changes per hour. 5 air changes per hour. So you take the volume of your house. This is about a 30 by 30, I'm guessing. So 30 by 30, that's is that 900? What's that? 900. And then let's say it's 10 feet tall, so times 10. So 9,000 square feet in here. Cubic feet, pardon. So we got that. So 5% of that volume would need to leak out or leak in per hour. That's what they're talking about. That volume, that much volume would need to change 5 times an hour, okay? That's what they're talking about. Or unless they say 0.5. No. 5 air changes per hour.
It's talking about the whole volume.
No. Yeah, I'm sorry, you're right. The volume needs to change 5 times an hour. So that's a lot of ventilation. All right. Now, what's my next one? 30351, I believe. Was that where we were?
That's intake opening.
Okay, intake opening. Mechanical and gravity outdoor area intake openings shall be located not less than 10 feet from any hazardous or noxious contaminant such as a vent, chimney, plumbing vent, street, alley, parking lot, and loading dock. For the purpose of this section, the exhaust from dwelling unit toilet rooms, bathrooms, and kitchens shall not be considered as hazardous. So we can have an air intake opening 10 feet from them, less than 10 feet from them. Our exception, 10-foot separation is not required if the opening is located 3 feet or greater below the contaminant source. Vents and chimneys serving fuel burning appliance shall be terminated in accordance with the applicable provisions of Chapter 1824. So if you got to say a Category 4 high efficiency furnace, you're going to vent it the way they told you to vent it. Okay? Closed dryer exhaust duct shall be terminated in accordance with Section 15. Okay? We'll look at that when we get there. 3036. Outside opening protection. And we'll look at this in greater detail when we get to mechanical code. But this is the mechanical code section put in the residential. Outside opening protection. All exhaust and intake openings that terminate outdoor shall be protected with a corrosion-resistant screen, louver, or grill having an opening size not less than a 1/4 inch and a maximum opening size of a 1/2 inch. So, not less than a 1/4, not more than a 1/2. I guess they want you to get a 3/8 screen, but somewhere in there, and it needs to be basically galvanized, right? Openings shall be protected against local weather conditions. Outdoor air exhaust and intake openings shall meet the provisions for exterior wall opening protectors in accordance with this code. All right. We're doing it. We're almost a third of the way through, huh? Look on y'all's face. 314.3. 314.3.
I have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Average, how many questions from like this book are going to be on the contractor's exam?
I wouldn't think, I would say 10 or less at least. What do you think, John? You just took it.
What was the question?
How many baby questions out of the residential code?
Oh, I think I might have 3.
So definitely less than 10.
Okay.
But it's different for everybody. I mean, I just talked to a fellow that just took it, and I had 18 manual J questions, and he had 2. You
Oh.
know, so it's different.
Hello?
Did you get it from, did you pass?
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
You had 18 manual J questions?
Yeah.
Hang on, y'all. Brian's called me 3 times.
And it's the worst part about it, and they can have comments that you can say afterwards, is they don't tell you what you missed. They don't tell you your grade. They just say you passed or you failed, period. You know, they don't say, hey, you need to look at your manual J stuff because you missed all 18.
Hey, Brian, how you doing?
They don't tell you.
I was just sitting in class.
So even if you fail, what can you say about getting a question wrong and looking at it?
I was gonna get your message in just a minute, but I was waiting until I went on
They won't
break.
tell you. They won't tell you what question you missed.
It takes about $120.
Hmm.
It takes about $120.
I paid $150 to take it.
You take refrigeration also?
Okay, and
No,
there's the back of the
300.
truck.
It would have been $300 for refrigeration.
One at a time.
One at a time.
Worry about
Let me
it.
know when you get on campus.
Yeah.
Okay. Want help? Okay. Got a class full of folks. Okay. number did I say? 314.3.
Mhm.
This is under smoke alarms and location. Smoke alarms shall be installed in the following locations: in each sleeping room, outside each sleeping area in the immediate vicinity of the bedrooms, on each additional story of the dwelling, including the basements and habitable attics, in the dwelling or dwelling units with split levels and without an intervening door between the adjacent levels. A smoke alarm is installed in the upper level shall suffice for the adjacent lower level, provided that the lower level is less than one full story. And finally, 4, smoke alarms shall be installed not less than 3 feet horizontally from the door or opening of a bathroom that contains a bathtub or shower, unless this would prevent a placement of a smoke alarm required by Section 314. So, you're probably asking yourself, why do we care about smoke alarms? And typically we don't. Now, a lot of the contractors I know, when they install a gas furnace in a house, whether it be new or replacement, they go ahead and charge the customer for a carbon monoxide alarm. So they're covered. They're going to put that somewhere to help say, hey, if there's carbon monoxide, I got it going. But fire alarm, smoke alarms is not something we typically install. But later on, we will see in the code that we're required to install smoke alarms in any system that's over 2,000 CFM. And so most 5-ton units are 2,000 plus a little bit. And so in those cases, we're required to put the smoke alarm in the return ductwork. And we'll see that later on in the later chapters, okay? I wouldn't try to get into saying, if the customer says, hey, you're supposed to put my smoke alarms in unless you contracted with them, okay?
How many CFM did you say?
How many what?
CFM did you say 2,000?
2,000 CFM.
Would that be only for, we wouldn't be responsible for the entire house?
That's right. What we want to do is, if our system, our return picks up smoke, we don't want to continue the fire by pumping air through the house. And so it's going to cut the air conditioning off and I guess have some kind of, audible alarm. We've got one sitting out there outside the classroom that you install in those things, but I've never heard it run. I don't know if it beeps or anything. 315.1. Carbon monoxide alarms. There we go. Getting ahead of myself. Was it 315.1.1? Yes, 315.1. General. Okay, so not much. I guess we didn't have much there. They must have asked a question about carbon monoxide, and our student couldn't tell us exactly what they asked about it. Let's look at where required, 315.2. All right, it's going to say, okay, so it's going to be under new construction and alterations. Let's see. For new construction, carbon monoxide alarms shall be provided in dwelling units where either or both of the following exist conditions. All right, if the dwelling unit contains a fuel-fired appliance, how about it now? We're going to need a carbon monoxide alarm. If it has an attached garage with an opening, we're going to need it. I guess there we're worried about cars leaking into the house, maybe. Alteration. Where one or more sleeping rooms are added or created, the individual dwelling unit should be equipped with a carbon monoxide alarm. Okay. All right. Now, I always sold the plug-in. See what it says as power source. Shall receive their primary power from the building wiring. Okay. Needs a battery backup. Doesn't say it has to be hardwired. So
Yeah, right there on the top, Clay.
where at?
Receiving primary power from building wires.
What number y'all on?
315.5. You think that means hardwired?
It is what.
Okay, all right, we're good.
Electricians are gonna do that. Any kind of remodel now you get to pull a permit, they're gonna require you to put CO detectors on each floor, and within 10 feet bedrooms, and then smoke detectors in each bedroom. So the electrician's probably gonna handle.
All right, so he's saying if it's hardwired, not going to be our job then. They can't hang it on us because we don't have, we're not qualified. Okay.
How many of those out there, I'm sorry, how many of those?
I'm
I know
sorry.
you're fine, I did too.
Somebody.
I've got 315.1, 315.2, 15.2.1, and 315.
I'll be honest, since he said it has to be done hardwired, I don't see how they can ask us a question about it. We're not taking the electrician's test. I don't think anything under 315 can be asked of us then. If they have to be hardwired,
So don't worry about 15.
yeah, because he's
They
saying that.
probably ask you some questions about needing them or not needing them, but the hardwiring is, I know anytime we do a remodel and open anything up, it requires bringing the smoke detectors up to code, up to current.
Okay, so that may be reasonable. If somebody hires us to change out the gas furnace, there's an alteration. We need to tell the customer carbon monoxide alarm is required. Although we can't do it.
Okay.
Like I said, most of the people I know would buy one and install the plug-in type.
Well, it says, carbon dioxide alarms in accordance with section 315.2.2 shall be permitted to be battery powered. And that says alteration, repairs, or additions. Is that alterations to the house or alterations to the unit?
Which number do you on? I'm sorry.
And under the exceptions of 315.5, exception 2, carbon monoxide alarms installed in accordance with section 315.2.2, 2.2 shall be permitted to be battery powered. And 315.2.2.
Okay, so that's not new construction. Okay, so that 2 is alteration repair, right? Well,
But it says like adding
Mhm.
individual dwellings, so I didn't know if that was like adding onto the house or altering the house.
installation, alteration, and repairs of plumbing or mechanical systems are exempt from the requirements. So I guess we swap out the furnace. We don't have to worry about it, maybe. That's shady, I don't know.
So I was just wondering.
Probably want to get a lawyer to work through that one.
What do you say about
Too
that,
many
Sam?
jumps and backs and forwards, and I'll see you.
But I was just wondering, since you said we're not allowed to, we're not required to wire it because we're not electricians, can you still do the work, or do you have to say I can't do it until you get an electrician to come hardwire a carbon monoxide detector?
Right.
Did you pull a permit on it?
Yeah, if it's not getting a permit, I'm doing the job. If I gotta get it inspected, I'm gonna tell them that they're gonna have to have an electrician hardwire.
Do you ask for inspections, or do they just surprise you like being
If you're in a city where they do inspections, you're gonna get probably a permit.
If you try to do it.
Unless you do it on the weekend.
Or you try to do it without a permit, if you get caught by inspections, then you're gonna have to pay a fine, which is usually double permit fee, and then they're gonna come out and inspect your work, then you're gonna have to call them for a rough inspection.
They're gonna baby walk you.
They're gonna nitpick you on the
Shame you.
without a permit.
All right. Was that okay? So let's move on to chapter 5. Okay, you know what? We'll start on chapter 5. We've been in here 55 minutes. In just a minute here. 502.8 is where I want to look at. We're going to see this in basically in the mechanical code. There we go. Okay, we're going to get started. Now, chapter 5 in this book, we're going to see this duplicated in all 3 code books with very little variation. We got to run refrigerant lines. We have to run condensation lines. We got to run thermostat wires, copper, And so we're going to have to make some holes where things go. And the framers are gone, and so it's up to us to make holes and notches and things like this where we don't take away from the integrity of the structure. And so that's what these in the next 3 chapters cover. So 502.8.1 sawn lumber, notches in solid lumber joists, rafters, and beams shall not exceed 1/6 of the depth of the member. There shall not be longer than 1/3 of the depth of the member, and shall not be located in the middle 1/3 of the span. Notches at the end of the member shall not exceed 1/4 of the depth of the member. The tension side of the member, 4 inches or greater in nominal thickness, shall not be notched except at the ends of the members. The diameters of holes bored or cut into members shall not exceed 1/3 the depth of the member. Holes shall not be closer than 2 inches to the top or the bottom, or to any other hole located in the member. When the member is notched, the hole shall not be closer than 2 inches to the notch. So, a whole lot of specifics. No way you're going to remember that for the most part. So you need to make sure you know that in the next 3 chapters, this is for walls, the next one we'll do for roofs, and then we'll do it for ceilings. Pretty much the same thing, okay? Now look at our next code, 502.8.2, engineered wood products. If you've been working on a construction site in the last 15 years, they have engineered wood now, which is basically, looks like plywood with kind of 2x4s on the end of it. It's kind of like a wood I-beam of steel. Anyway, we have this. So if you have that, what do? Well, that one's really easy. Those engineered wood products have perforated holes you can notch out. It's like, it looks like it's been kind of stamped or something, and you can knock it out. Anywhere that it's not pre-made, you can't cut it. Okay? I'll read over this. Engineered wood products, cuts, notches, and holes bored in trusses, structural composite lumber.
What number you on? I'm sorry.
502.8.2. 502.8.2. Cuts, notches, and holes bored in trusses, structural composite lumber, structural glue laminated members, cross-laminated timber members, or I-joists are prohibited except where permitted. That's it. And so, if it says knockout, guess what? You can knock it out. That's about it. Okay, let's jump to 602.6. 602.6. So now we're going to look at walls, not floors.
So 5 was floors.
5 was floors. Now we're going to look at walls. And most of this chapter, pardon me, it's for framers. It's not for us, but we do have to alter some of this stuff sometimes.
Do the builders have codes that have to make our equipment flow good too?
Do the builders have to make codes what now?
Do the the contractors and stuff, do they have to practice codes that make HVAC equipment easily to work, access to work?
Somewhat.
Because there was one house I had to climb under a 2-foot space.
Right. Okay.
But if I wasn't there, they couldn't have sealed the back of it because the way that the walls were.
We're supposed to. We're supposed to have access to it, and we're supposed to have electrical. We're supposed to have a plug to work with, and we're supposed to have a light to work with, they give in here the width of the path, how far it can be. Unfortunately, and usually, if it's an attic, they're supposed to provide us with a flooring where that thing is. Usually they're long gone by the time they get us in there because the contractor hadn't decided on the builder hadn't decided on a subcontractor when, it started. What was my number?
2.6.1.
Okay, so drilling and notching of studs, the following: notching any stud in an exterior wall or a bearing partition, that's an inside wall that carries the structure above it, shall be permitted to cut or notch to a depth not exceeding 25% of its width. Studs in a non-bearing partition shall be permitted to be notched to a depth of 40% with a single stud width. Okay. Drilling any stud shall be permitted to be bored or drilled, provided that the diameter of the resulting hole is not more than 60% of the stud width. The edge of the hole is not more than 5/8 of an inch to the edge of the stud, and the hole is not located in the same section as a cut or a notch. Studs located in exterior walls or bearing partitions drilled over 40% and up to 60 shall be doubled with not more than 2 successive double stud bores. Yeah. It's tough sometimes. It's not near as tough as it is on plumbers. Sometimes they're having to run a 4-inch, 6-inch interior line, okay? But it is coming on a 2-story house, and if you're taking the line down from the attic above it, you've got to go on the exterior wall, you've got to cut through the top plate. When you get to the next floor, you got to cut through that one. You got to stay within the wall cavity all the way down. It's pretty tough, and you don't want it to leak. You don't want to run 4 pieces of tin. You want to run one line so there's no joint there to leak. All right, so we have the same exception, 60261, I believe. Engineered. Well, maybe I'm looking at the wrong one. Okay, let's look at 60261. The drilling and notching of the top plate. Piping or ductwork is placed or in or partially in an exterior wall or an interior load-bearing wall, necessitating cutting, drilling, notching of the top plate by more than 50% of its width. A galvanized metal tie not less than 0.054 inch thick, that's 1.37 millimeters, a 16 gauge, and 1.5 inches wide shall be fastened to cross and to the plate at each side of the opening. See, with not less than I guess that's a 10-penny nail, having a minimum length of 1.5 inches at each side of the equivalent. The metal tie must extend a minimum of 6 inches past the opening. And you see they show an illustration of what they're talking about there.
Somebody did on the other page.
I don't know what figure it is. I got it right here on the screen. All right, I think that's it for 6. Let's go to 8. Chapter 8, 802.7.
Chapter 6 is pretty big.
Yeah, luckily there wasn't much in it for us.
So 802.6?
802.7. 802.7. So there's not much here except for, I hadn't pulled it up yet, but it's going to say, go back to chapter 5, I think is what it says. Let's see here. So when we're dealing with the ceiling or roof or a combination of there, think about what I would have done if the internet went down this morning, man. I've been right in trouble. Come on, load.
This is gonna be roofs, right?
Roof ceilings, that's right. May have to cut into them, right? 8027, cutting, drilling, and notching. It says, pardon me, structural roof members shall not be cut, bored, or notched in excess of the limitations specified below. In 80271, if it's sawn lumber in our roof, cuts, notches, and holes in solid lumber joists, rafters, blocking beams should comply with the provisions of Chapter 50281, which we looked at 2 chapters ago. The same requirements: how close, how big, how wide we can make our holes. All right. Now we're going to jump to Chapter 11. Got a lot of stuff in 11. So we've got some definitions that are special here in this chapter that are not listed in chapter 2, right?
And these just are definitions that pertain to energy efficiency.
All right, let's look at table 1101. Point, I think it's point 10.
What's that? Is it a map of the United States?
And 1110, that's a figure. You know, that's fine. Let's start with that. Just look at code 1101.10.1 first. The code first. I don't know if it's there anymore. Y'all are. Looks like that number's changed for me.
Building thermal envelope insulation.
Climate zone. Warm, humid climate.
Climate zone.
International climate zone.
It's 1101.7.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. All right, so look at 1107. What is it, point 1?
No, 1101.7.
1101.7, pardon me.
439.
What is the map first? Is that 1101.10.2? Start there. at the figure 1101.10.2. I think that's what it is in mine here.
So,
1101.
Ours is 1101.7. It's on page 440 in my book.
And so the figure is maybe, okay, I'm reading the wrong section. It says figure 1101.7 figure. The table is 1101.72. The table that follows,
Yeah, it's just 1101.7.
it's table.
Yeah, it's a table.
0.7. Okay. So everybody see the map there? Do you see Alabama?
yeah.
Do you see the different counties for humidity? Okay. Let's look at it by state. So this is some of the state is above the warm, humid line, right? Can y'all see that back there? It's kind of a jagged line. Above it is not, but below it is below the humid line. All right. U.S., do you see Alabama in the table?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the counties are listed, and they have an asterisk if they're a warm, humid location. What county are we here? Let's find Jefferson County. We are not considered a warm, humid. Okay? So this is going to make a distinction later on whether we're doing a unit in a warm, humid county or not. Okay? Jefferson County's not. But if you had a test and they said Autauga County, this is where you come to find out, right? Okay. Let's see. I think.
Is our test gonna be, are we talking to Alabama contractors or just a general contractor?
We are, but I've seen them ask questions before on Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina to show that you know how to read it. All right, I think it's 1101.11 for interior design conditions. Let's see if it is the same from 12 to 15 might have changed.
Are you wanting interior design conditions?
Yes, what is that code?
1101.9.
So yeah, so we dropped some codes obviously. 1101.9 interior. Okay, thank you. Change that. 11.9. All right. The interior design temperatures used for heating and cooling load calculations shall be a maximum of 72 degrees for heating and a minimum of 75 for cooling. That's a little bit different, isn't it, from Manual J? Does anybody in here have Manual J calculation class? What is the design conditions for inside design conditions?
75 degrees.
Yes.
For heat
and 70 degrees.
70 degrees for cooling. So y'all see this here. Interior design conditions are 72 maximum. That doesn't mean it can't be lower. 70 is lower. And a minimum of 75, so that's okay. All right.
They give you what to use on the test too.
Yeah, I think that's changed, yeah.
How should you know if you passed it or not? Do you know like that day?
I'm sorry?
Do you know if you passed it that day or?
Yes, ma'am. They tell you when you walk out the room.
All right, let's go with the next one, 1101.10. Identification, materials, systems, and equipment shall be identified in a manner that will allow determination of compliance with this code. Okay, it's going to have a label. Look on, I think it's 1102 table. Eleven oh two one two. 1102.12. All right, so this table gives us our insulation requirements, and it's all listed right here. We have our climate zone 1, 2, and 3, right? Let's see. What's our frame wall insulation? 13, ceiling 30, in climate zone 1. See, it jumps to 38 in zone 2. Crawl space and whatnot, okay? All right. All right.
Why does it have that parentheses out there beside the table number, the R402.1.2? Is that something that backs up what this table is saying?
I guess it might have been in code R40, yeah, something in compliance with that. All right, that was code 1102. The next thing we want is what? 1103, I believe. All right, 1103, I believe. Okay, under systems. All right, 1103.1. Everybody see that one? 1103.1, thermostat, controls mandatory. At least one thermostat shall be provided for each separate heating and cooling system. 1103.11, programmable thermostats. I was looking at this the other day. The thermostat controlling the primary heating or cooling system of the dwelling shall be capable of controlling the heat and cooling system on a daily schedule to maintain different temperature set points at different times of the day. This thermostat shall include the capability to set back or temporarily operate the system to maintain zone temperatures down to 55 or up to 85. The thermostat shall initially be programmed by the manufacturer with a heating temperature set point no higher than 70 and a cooling temperature set point no lower than 78. So here they are requiring that the main controlling thermostat be a programmable one with 2 set points a day. Now, we do have an exception in this state to this code. So they won't flag you on this. We'll look at that exception later. That may be the code that we found in the energy code. We'll look in the law too to see if we can find it. The next one, 1103.12, heat pump supplementary heat. Okay, so this mandates an outside T-stat is what it does. It says, heat pumps having supplementary electrical resistance heat Every heat pump I know basically has strip heat backup or fuel gas. Shall have controls that, except during the frost, prevent the supplemental heat operation when the heat pump compressor can meet the heating load. So if you had heat pump class, what that means is you have to do an analysis to see how much heat the house can, the unit can produce, the heat pump, not the heat strips, and what the load of the house is at different temperatures. And only when you get to the point where the heat pump cannot provide adequate heat for the structure do you bring on strip heat, backup heat. And that's what the thermostat is set at here. So that's part of the code requirements now, an outside T-stat. All right, what else we got here?
Clay.
Yes, sir.
Question. I noticed that in front of all the numbers, code numbers, until chapter 11 there was an R, and now that we're in 11 it's an N.
N, yeah. I don't know why they changed it that way. We'll see a different thing too, but I don't really know what that means. All right, that was what, 312. Let's look at 321 if that's there. I don't see one anymore.
Sealed air handler,
What was 3021?
or
Insulation. Do we have that? Okay, so that's 331 now, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah.
Pardon me.
Insulation.
Let's
Respect.
change that. So that's 30.
1103.3.1.
3.1. All right, here we go. Here's our laws. Supply and return ducts in attics shall be insulated to a minimum of R8, where 3 inch in diameter and greater. You can't run anything 3 inches or less.
Which one is that?
1103.3.1. Supply and return in an attic, R8. Minimum.
And that's 2-inch duct board, right?
Well, I guess. I don't know. I hadn't bought no 2-inch duct board. And greater, if it's smaller than 3 inches, which we can't do it up here. We don't do high velocity air conditioning systems. Could be R6. Supply and return ducts in other portions of the building shall be insulated to a minimum of R6, where 3 inches in diameter or greater, and R4.2 where less than 3 inches in diameter. Now, this too has an exception in the state laws. We'll look at that, okay? That overrides this code. Not big time, but a little bit. All right, where are we at? 3231. Ceiling. Do we have ceiling next?
Mm-hmm.
30332. Okay. Duct and air handler and filter boxers should be sealed. Joints and seams shall comply with either the International Mechanical Code or Section M16 when we get there. Okay, so pretty much if you don't have the tape on there, it's not going to pass code.
Which one you on?
That was 1103.2.2, I believe. No,
1103.3.2.
thank you. Okay, look at 1103.3. You see it? Mandatory duct testing. We have a rough-in test and a pre-construction test. Everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
30334. Duct leakage test, okay, rough in and a post-construction. I'm sorry, what?
doing 1103.33 and 1103.
3-4, both of them. That's right. Let's look at 1103.4. Mechanical system piping installation are mandatory. Mechanical system piping capable of carrying fluids above 105 degrees or below, can chill 55, shall be insulated at least to an R3. So that's very close to our liquid line now, isn't it? You're going to have some condensing at, say, 115 degrees now. So if they don't get 10 degrees of subcooling, they very well could still be above 105. What do we got next? Mechanical ventilation.
Yeah, 1103.6.
Yes, thank you. 1103.6. That's changed. A bunch of this changed. The building shall be provided with ventilation that meets the requirements of Chapter 15 when we get there of this code, or the International Mechanical Code is applicable, or with other approved methods of ventilation. Outdoor air intakes and exhausts shall have automatic or gravity dampers that close when the ventilation system is not operating. Okay. Equipment sizing. What is that? 1103.7? Is that right? Equipment sizing efficiency. You are required to do an ACA Manual J or other approved methods to size the location. So if we follow this code, here's where you're required to do a Manual J. Okay. Look at 1103.10.1.
Who?
I'm sorry. Heaters. 1103.10.1.
It'll be 2 now. 1103.10.2 heaters.
All right, mine shows time switches.
That's number 3.
Yep, added one on me.
Yours is what now?
Mine is 1103.10.2 heaters.
Okay. Now, mine may be newer than y'all. We'll look at that at the end. This is all 15, but I don't know. We've got a few numbers different, so one of them was made before the others. The electric power to heater shall be controlled by a readily accessible on and off switch that is an integral part of the heater mounted on the exterior of the heater or external to and within 3 feet of the heater. Operation of such switch shall not change the setting of the heater thermostat. Such switches shall be in addition to a circuit breaker for the power to the heater. Gas-fired heaters shall not be equipped with continuously burning ignition pilots. Those standing pilots. Okay.
No standing pipe.
Not here. Continuous standing pilots. Okay, I think that's it for chapter 11, I believe. All right. Y'all hang in there a little longer. 11:05. Let's go to chapter 13. mechanical.
All the 13.
13 in the 12, I guess it might have changed.
I don't think there's a 13.
I'll look at that copyright before we close down and see what it says. Let's look at 1301.2. Identification. Each length of pipe and tubing and each pipe fitted utilized in a mechanical system shall bear the identification of the manufacturer. Let's look at, I think it's 1302.1, listed and labeled. Appliances, that's our equipment, regulated by this code shall be listed and labeled for the application in which they are installed and used unless otherwise approved in accordance with Chapter 104.11. Let's look at label information, 1303.1. 1303.1. On the right one, 1303.1. Yeah. I'm just trying to make sure my list is still the same. All right. A permanently factory applied nameplate shall be affixed to appliances on which shall appear in legible lettering the manufacturer's name or trademark, the model number, the serial number, and the seal or mark of the testing agency. A label should also include the following: on electrical appliances, rating in volts, amps, and motor phase, identification of individual electrical components in volts, amps, or watts. That'd be our condenser fan motor, the compressor, whatnot. And in BTUs, output and required clearances. I'm not going to worry about absorption units. You're not going to have one in the house. Okay. Label equipment. What is that? Y'all don't have that anymore, do you? We just did that.
What we just did, label information.
We just did it, right. I'm sorry. I'm losing my mind. 1305. This is kind of what you asked about. Is that what my next one here is? Appliance access, and we'll see this in all three code books. Pretty much redundant, pretty much the same. Appliance shall be accessible for inspection, service, repair, and replacement without removing permanent construction or appliances or any other piping and ducts not connected to the appliance being inspected, serviced, repaired, or replaced. A level workspace not less than 30 inches deep and 30 inches wide shall be provided in front of the control side to serve an appliance. 305.11. Furnaces and air handlers. Furnaces and air handlers with compartments or alcoves, within compartments or alcoves shall have a minimum working space clearance of 3 inches along the sides, back and top, with a total width of the enclosure space being not less than 12 inches wider than the furnace. Does everybody know what an alcove is?
Alcohol.
It's kind of like a closet without the door there. It's it's kind of walled in on three sides. So we're going to have at least 3 inches clearing on each side, no less than 12 less wider than the whole thing. Furnaces having a firebox open to the atmosphere shall have not less than 6 inches working space along the front combustion chamber side. Combustion air openings at the rear or the side of the compartment shall comply with requirements later on in Chapter 17. Now it's going to say here, the exception is if it's listed and labeled to be put with less than 3 inches, then that's fine. If that's how the manufacturer made it. Appliances in rooms. What is this, 30512? Appliance installed in a compartment, alcove, basement, or similar space shall be accessed by an opening or door and an unobstructed passageway measuring not less than 24 inches wide and large enough to allow removal of the largest appliance in the space, provided that there is a level service space of not less than 30 inches deep and the height of the appliance, but not less than 30 inches at the front or the service side of the appliance with the door open. So here they're telling you, you go in some of these older places, you have to crawl across the roof, the attic joist. Try not to fall through the sheetrock. So they're saying that won't do it anymore. Got to have a pathway at least 20 inches wide. You don't have to break the equipment down to haul it out the access door. It's got to be large enough to carry the largest part of the unit out. Appliance in attics, 30513, pretty much the same thing. Shall be provided with an opening and a clearance and an unobstructed passway large enough to allow the removal of the largest appliance, but not less than 30 inches, at a height of 22 inches wide and not more than 20 feet long, measured along the center line of the passageway from the opening to the appliance. Shall have a continuous solid floor in accordance with Chapter 5, not less than 24 inches wide, a level service space of not less than 30 inches deep and 30 inches wide shall be present alongside of the appliance where access is required. The clear access opening dimension shall not be less than 20 inches by 30 inches, large enough to remove the equipment if it's larger than that.
Now,
Yes.
it might be a silly question. If that's code, does the contractor provide that for us, or we have to?
No, that's too much work. If it's you're talking about if it's a new house.
Yeah.
No, he's gonna. Unless you like doing carpentry work, I'm gonna say no. You need to get the framer back in here to make this.
Okay.
Moving on to the electrical requirements. Was it 3015143? 13051.
Oh, yeah, 4-3.
Yeah, it's .1, .4.3.
We got a list of requirements, we got two of them.
You got one at 05.1.3.1, and then you got one at 1.4.
So there's one before that?
Yeah,
Right after appliances and attics.
yeah, up on the exception.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's perfect. All right. Yeah. So basically, a luminaire, y'all, that's a light, and it's controlled by a switch. Guess what? Where you go in, and you're gonna have a electrical plug you can use. Right, a receptacle outlet shall be installed at or near the appliance, so you can work on it. Okay, that'll work. Underfloor, I'm not gonna read that. If your question says I'm working on it, what is the access for an appliance under the floor? Bingo. This is where you come. Or if it's an attic, go to the attic section. Whatnot. Let's look at ground clearance. This is 1305 141. 1305 141. Equipment and appliances supported from the ground shall be level and firmly supported on a concrete slab or other approved material extending not less than 3 inches above the ground. So if it's supported from the ground, we need 3-inch clearance. Appliance suspended from the floor above shall have a clearance of not less than 6 inches from the ground. Okay, if you hang it from the floor joist. Okay. Let's look at excavations. 305 142. The excavation for appliance installation shall extend to a depth of 6 inches below the appliance. We need 6 inches below the appliance, and 12 inches on the side of all. 12 inches on all sides, except that the control side shall have a clearance of 30 inches. All right, so you either suspend something or you support it from the floor, working with your 6 and your 3 inches. If you have to dig a pit to make that work, then you also have to apply the excavation. In other words, if you have to dig it, in other words, if we had a flat piece of ground, we could go 3 inches. But if I used a 3-inch on that flat grade down there and it won't fit, if I have to dig it out, now I have to have 6 below it. And where we dig it out, we're going to have walls. And so the walls, they tell us have to be 12 inches, except for on the side where we work on it to repair it, has to be 30 inches wide, okay? Same electrical requirements. All right. All right, do you see Section 1306, clearance from combustible construction? All right, I'm not going to bother with that in this book because we're going to see it in the mechanical code book and the fuel gas code book. But this is how it works. Everything that we install in the house is either listed or labeled or both listed and labeled. And one of the requirements on a listed and labeled thing is it says this is the clearance. Let's say you go and you buy some double wall pipe. So you say, well, my gas furnace needs a 4-inch flue and I need to run double wall pipe. Double wall pipe says right on there, it's listed, label, requires how much clearance? Do y'all remember?
1 inch gap all the way around.
1 inch clearance from anything combustible. Wood. Well, single wall has a 6 inch. Okay? Now, let's say, can't help it. You know, this customer, you can't very well tell a customer, yeah, it won't meet code, you can't have heat in your house anymore. You got to make it work. And so, if that's the case, what you really do is you turn the construction into something non-flammable. You take the wood and you build a structure or a assembly that's not flammable. And then you can reduce, you're not worried about your clearance if it's up against metal or brick or something like that. Y'all follow me? That's what this goes over. We'll look at it when we get the fuel gas code. We'll show you how there's a little chart with assemblies, and we'll use it on a couple of examples. But that's all it's about. What can I reduce? You know, maybe I can go from 6 inches to 3 inches, and that'll work. You know, a lot of times you'll see a furnace and a hot water heater in these houses with garages. Well, you can't just run the flue through the garage and people get out of their car and duck under it and run in there. You got to have it up enough not to bust your head. And once it gets up there, if it's got to run, I mean, you can't just run right out the roof. There may be a bedroom above you. And so because of that, you may have to run, and you're going to get closer and closer to the joists that are holding up the ceiling. And so that's what we're talking about. There's a clearance problem. It may be listed for 3 inches, and you go, I got to be 1 inch from it, or ½ inch. And so you build a construction. Okay, I'm about to call it, y'all. Just about. All right, what else I got here? Okay, let's look at, I think it's 1307.2. Yeah, is that what it, okay. Same one then. Appliances designed to be fixed in position shall be fastened or anchored in an approved manner in seismic design categories of D0, D1, and D2. Y'all remember what Alabama was when we first hit the seismic map? 1, 2, and 3, right? So this doesn't apply to us, doesn't mean we won't get a question on it. Okay? (1307.3) elevation of ignition source. This is like a hot surface igniter, or the spark igniter, or the standing pilot on a water heater or a furnace. Appliance having an ignition source shall be elevated such that the source of ignition is not less than 18 inches above the floor in garages. Not less than 18 inches above the floor in garage.
So the igniter has to be 18 inches above.
Or higher, right? That's what they're saying, right? Theoretically, we may have a car in there, a truck, a vehicle, lawnmower, fuel. If that's fumes get out, I think we're worrying about the fumes kind of being near the floor. And so we got an 18 inch where we're starting, And you may have something that starts here and the burners are higher or something, but they're telling us the ignition source needs to be 18 inches at least. Let's look at protection from impact. If we put these things in a garage, somebody, believe it or not, may run right into them, and we got fuel lines. 1307.31, protection from impact. Appliance shall not be installed in a location subject to vehicle damage, except where protected by approved barriers. Okay, that's great. All right, so I think we have that in 13082, maybe. Okay, we don't have that anymore, do we? Okay, yeah, we do have it. Okay. Protection again. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. 13082, and we have drilling and notching above it, but man, we pretty much belabored that point, right? 13082, protection against physical damage, where piping will be concealed within light frame construction assembly. The piping shall be protected against penetration by fasteners in accordance with section 13082 we're about to get to. All right, look at the only one I'm curious. 130823 shield plates. Shield plates shall be of steel material having a thickness of not less than 0.057 an inch. Okay, I think that's it, right? Now, they changed this. Now, this is what the 12 said. I don't know why they changed it, but somebody complained. Protective shield plates have a minimum thickness of that. Shall cover the area of the pipe where the member is notched or bored, and shall extend a minimum of 2 inches above the plates and below the top plate. So these are required when we go through the floor plates and the top plates, where your pipes or your thermostat wire runs behind there. You're going to have to put the steel plates, that way the sheet rocker doesn't go right through your pipe or your thermostat wire, okay? All right, so they